Democracy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
This is odd. No answer. Okay. Contacts. And there. Yeah. Probably the wrong button. But it seems like I'm there. Hello? Can you hear me? You should be able to. Oh my god. Yeah, it's a bit laggy on my end with the computer lately, but things should be working. Okie doke. Hello everybody, it's the 18th of June 2016, 4 p.m. in the Netherlands, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's see. There we go. Check out the websites ucy.tv. If you find that page, you will see that there is a chat available. And a lot of people are already busy over there. Welcome everybody. Captain Gringo and Cracker and Dan and Grump and Jane, Otto and one anon. It's not going to mention. That's funny how that goes, right? Not going to mention the arrest of quote unquote terrorists in Belgium just now. Apparently, they were going to do something at a soccer game. Yeah. No, I don't do news, so to speak. You will not hear me talking about news much. I remember doing it for a short while, like 2 months or so. That on the show I would like gather all these news articles and comment on them. But I figured that's what everybody else was doing also. So I stopped doing that. But it's a good way to point out the problems, so to speak. And that's my tea. I hope you all have something to drink also. Chup, chup, chup. So if you want to join, you can via Skype. Contact me at Solvinur, and I will drag you in. That's cool. It's SOLVINUR. SOLVINUR. If you want to join in and discuss anything you like, it doesn't matter what, to be honest. Etymology of the word assassin. Yeah. I thought they were called Hashashin. That's the word on the street. Anyway, they were smoking these hashis. That's where you get hashishin. I don't know if that's true. What does the link say that is provided? Anglo-Latin, mid-13th century, via French and Italian, from Arabic, hashiyin, hashish users. Oh, see? So, yeah. This, it says that for murdering opposing leaders after intoxicating themselves by eating hashish. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I've heard another explanation which sounds more plausible, which is that they were smoking that stuff all of the time and they were getting it from the military leaders. And when the time for war came, the military leaders would withdraw this drug, and that makes you angry. So, that would get you ready for war, you see. I think that would be a possible use. Yeah. So, we're going to do Brave New World as requested. I hope you all like it. This reading that I do. If not, just send me an email. Solvinur2@yahoo.com. Solvinur2@yahoo.com, and so I'll see what I can do there. Hey Dale, how you doing, buddy? So, I haven't been keeping up with any news, as you guys know, but I'm still curious. A while ago, maybe people in the chat can answer. A while ago, there was this talk about drought, and I believe it was California. It hadn't like rained in years over there. There are a lot, Jane. And has it started raining there yet? In the drought-stricken areas, or is there still drought? I'm wondering. It's been 3 years or what? Something like that. You'd say, Jane says, I hear that Holland is full of Muslims now, and I say, well, yeah, there's a lot of them here. People said that in the past the what were regarded as far right-wing political parties that don't exist now anymore, I believe. But they were shouting, Holland is full, Holland is full. And, that was like when we had 3 million people less than we have now. We are now at 17 million. And there's enough room for everybody, there really is. We could have twice, even 3 times the size, the amount of people. All we had to do is, and the northern people are not gonna like this, but I would say cultivate the north, right? Yeah, it's just one big wasteland. No, well, I call it wasteland according to Dutch standards, not according to American standards. There are a wasteland, really is a wasteland, but this is just like, flat land everywhere, and it's being uselessly wasted on growing flowers, for instance. Things like that. Instead of growing food, we grow flowers. That's what I don't like about the work that I do either. It's at the nursery, I work with plants. And people buy those plants. It's economy, but it's useless economy, in my opinion anyway. Plants grow in nature. You want some plants, go get them, But to make a whole economy of that, it seems consumer based, right? You need to have a consumer base before you can start selling stuff that people don't actually need, like plants that are not food. And this is the result of Edward Bernays' and other people like him thinking the way they think, is that if you are a company, if you want to sell stuff, you don't adjust your product so that the people will buy it because they want it. It's the exact other way around. You create the society that wants your product. That's how they work. A famous example of that, of course, is Edward Bernays and how he got women smoking, which doubled the income of the tobacco company, right? You want to make more profit? Create the market. That means mind control the people in such a way that they will buy your crap. This slider doesn't work. Let me put that over there. California wildfire. Oh, Dell. It still seems to be dry there then. Was the first fit on the pig mine. Otto says 17 million, just 3 million more Muslims till you hit the bonus round. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the exact number of immigrants we had when the number was 14 million, which is about 35 years ago or so, something like that. My guess would be 10-15% or so. I think now the percentage of immigrants is much higher. I think maybe double. Yeah. Americans, if they even know about Holland, they know it's a very small country, right? But it really depends on where you go in Holland, what kind of people you will meet. Yeah. Especially, I went to, I may have told this before, but I went to Amsterdam at age 16, and half the people I met there were white. If you go now to Amsterdam, it's hard to even spot a white guy. And so, but in other cities and provinces, it's not that high. Who brings the immigrants to tiny little Holland? Well, I'm afraid that the Dutch government is being forced by the European government, if I put this correctly, to get their quota, as they call it, right? Because there are so many immigrants coming into Europe, and the European Union says, well, every country has to take their share, and something like that it goes. But about who brings them here is, I think that the European Union and the European Commission are a bunch of puppets. I haven't researched this, but I suspect they are tied to non-governmental organizations like the European Council on Foreign Relations. So they probably are more in the know about how society really functions. They are probably in the know about the false war that is going on, which makes all these migrants come to Europe, right? Wars based on lies. So, who brings the immigrants to tiny little Holland? Yeah. I don't know, although the military-industrial complex, would that be the idea, or do they not operate single-handedly? I doubt that they do, to be honest with you. So, well, China is not part of the European Union, although, in answer to that question. All right. Hello, regular dork. And Beth, hello. People in the RLM chat at reallibertymedia.com. Check the website out. There's also another one. I don't know if I should even be mentioning this one. I don't think it matters. I just like it because of the last three letters. Yeah. So thanks, RLM Radio.xyz. I'm on there also at the list of shows. And thanks Real Liberty Media, I'm hearing myself there also on the playback. Playback. It's awesome. Let's see. This is written by Aldous Huxley. And I thought we might scroll. Do a little search on the brain for Aldous Huxley. Let's see, where's my brain? Where's my brain? I found another brain, by the way. This one is also good. I didn't know this was open. I didn't know this existed until I accidentally stumbled upon it somehow. But there is another. This is not Richard Groves. This is Jan Irvins. So you can see his model, so to speak. Very good. Good stuff. And here is the brain we usually use. Copy that, put that in the chat. For the guys at Real Liberty Media, you're gonna have to go over to ucylobby.chatango.com. You can get there via ucy.tv if you want the links. So we'll be using the bottom one. And there you will find a search box. And you type in Aldous, and if you stop, it already starts searching, and you can click on Aldous Huxley. And then you wait a minute, and there we go. Aldous Huxley. It's connected to a lot of things. Before Aldous, there was a guy called Aleister Crowley. Apparently Huxley knew about him or something. Not sure what the link precisely represents. However, oh, that's the wrong button. Come on, move up. Ta-da! It won't go up again. Not so nice. Reboot. Hold on, guys. Yeah. That one up. Here we go. Aldous Leonard Huxley, born 26th of July 1894, and apparently died 22 November 1963. 22 November 1963, that's an odd date. Was an English writer, novelist, philosopher, and prominent member of the Huxley family. Alright, they even have a whole section on the Huxley family. The Huxley family is a British family of which several members have excelled in scientific, medical, artistic and literary fields. The family also includes members who occupied senior public positions in the service of the United Kingdom. The patriarch of the family was the zoologist and comparative anatomist Thomas Henry Huxley. Thomas Henry Huxley grandson include Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World and Doors of Perception. His brother, Julian Huxley, evolutionist and first director of UNESCO, and Nobel laureate what the hell is that? Physiologist. Andrew Huxley. Physiologist, yeah. So, an influential family. Brother Julian Huxley is a Darwinist, apparently. I think eugenics. And first director of UNESCO, right? So we're talking big shots here. And I would have to agree with Jan Irvin, who I heard in a podcast speak about Aldous Huxley and this book, where he says that it was not so much written for entertainment as well as for manipulation. That's how I would describe, in the shortest possible way, his view. Right? Alright. Let's see. So Huxley, he graduated from Balliol something college in Oxford with a first in English literature. He was best known for his novels, including Brave New World, set in a dystopian London, and for non-fiction books such as The Doors of Perception, which recalls experiences when taking a psychedelic drug. Alright, so also there, Jan Irvin has done extensive research, and this also ties to Dawson, which you will find in the WebBrain page that I shared on the chat room. That this is a psychological operation on the minds of the people, promoting all these drugs, see, with the Doors of Perception. And a wide-ranging output of essays. Early in his career, Huxley edited the magazine Oxford Poetry and published short stories and poetry. Mid-career and later, he published travel writing, film stories and scripts. He spent the later part of his life in the United States, living in Los Angeles from 1937 until his death in 1962. 1962, so why does that top say 63? A year before his death, he was elected Companion of Literature by the Royal Society of Literature. Huxley was a humanist, a pacifist, and a satirist. Really? He later became interested in spiritual subjects such as parapsychology, parapsychology, and philosophical mysticism. Philosophical mysticism. Yeah. In particular, universalisms. And this is based on Plato's idea of forms. By the end of his life, Huxley was widely acknowledged as one of the preeminent intellectuals of his time. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize of Literature in 7 different years. All right. Don't think we're gonna do the rest of this wiki thing. So there's a whole list of on the left side and on the right side related things with them. You can see at the scroll bars on the left and the right, and the bottom also on the top. Things that are somehow connected. Of course, Sir William Huxley. Theosophy, somehow connected. All right, so before I would start reading this book, not like I've not read it before, but that was long ago, I would caution myself and say, gotta watch out for things that he tries to slip in, things that are suggested and that he makes you think about or something. I think these things might come up when the savage speaks. All right, so let's see. In the chat room, what's everybody going on? 8 Hawks, did you just join? What's up, buddy? How you doing? All right. So let's see what this is, and I'll probably stumble upon some of these words because it's more difficult. I think when I read it, it might have been in Dutch, but I don't remember exactly. But I think this is a little bit difficult, more difficult than 1984. All right, let me light my cigarette here. A squat grey building of only 34 stories. Over the main entrance, the words Central London Hatchery and Conditioning Centre, and in a shield, the World State's motto: community, identity, stability. Right, so those are some terms to throw around right at the start. Yeah, hatchery. If you've never read this book, you might think, well, what's going on here? So I'll not spoil it. Conditioning center. That's I think Huxley may have got this from a Sanskrit idea. I think I saw that earlier with him. Conditioning is translated from Sanskrit, and it has to do in their philosophy with a illusionary force, they call it. or an illusionary energy. And it's responsible for letting living beings feel as if things are okay and things are wonderful when they are really not. And as an example, they will give a pig who is rolling around in the mud, and he feels perfectly happy. And then the explanation given is, well, nature made pigs in such a way that it feels perfectly happy in a pool of mud. And so that's a way they look at conditioning. They also include 3 modes of nature, which I think also come back later in Plato's division of what a human being is. The lowest drive and the middle drive, the lion, as Jean O'Denning explained to us. And these forces are known in India as ignorance, passion, and goodness. And the mixture of these 3 modes of nature, as they call it, will control your behavior, so to speak. It's a kind of deterministic view, right? If you can condition living beings to act in a certain way, it looks like determinism. And I think that's where they're going. Molecular biology seems to be also a new term for eugenics, right? They think that life somehow is created by a combination of certain molecules and chemical reactions. So molecular biology is the new eugenics, is the new way of trying to, well, rid out the weakling, so to speak, right? Conditioning center, central part of the whole story, actually. So the world's motto, community. Well, of course, the first word that springs to mind is communism. Identity is like know your place, right? It's like a caste system. And stability. Yeah. Don't change things, I guess. Continuing reading, the enormous room on the ground floor faced towards the north, cold for all the summer beyond the panes, for all the tropical heat of the room itself. A harsh, thin light glared through the windows, hungrily seeking some draped lay figure, some pallid shape of academic goose flesh, but finding only the glass and nickel and bleakly shining porcelain of a laboratory. Wintrines, never seen that word. Wintrines responded to wintrines. The overalls of the workers were white, their hands gloved with a pale corpse-colored rubber. The light was frozen, dead, a ghost. Only from the yellow barrels of the microscope did it borrow a certain rich and living substance, lying along the polished tubes like butter, streak after luscious streak in a long recession down the work tables. "And this," said the director, opening the door, "is the fertilizing room." Bent over their instruments, 300 fertilizers were plunged, and the director of hatcheries and conditioning entered the room. In the scarcely breathing silence, the absent-minded soliloquizing, hum or whistle, or absorbed concentration. I told you this was going to be hard. A troop of newly arrived students, very young, pink and callow, followed nervously, rather abjectly at the director's heels. Each of them carried a notebook, in which, whenever the great man spoke, he desperately scribbled. Straight from the horse's mouth. It was a rare privilege. The DHC for Central London always made a point of personally conducting his new students round the various departments. "Just to give you a general idea," he would explain to them, for, of course, some sort of general idea they must have, if they were to do their work intelligently, though as little of one, if they were to be good and happy members of a society as possible. For particulars, as everyone knows, make for virtue and happiness. Generalities are intellectually necessary evils. Not philosophers, but thread sawyers and stamp collectors compose the backbone of society. "Tomorrow," he would add, smiling at them with a slightly menacing geniality, "you'll be settling down to serious work. You won't have time for generalities." Meanwhile, it was a privilege, straight from the horse's mouth into the notebook. The boy scribbled like mad. Tall and rather thin but upright, the director advanced into the room. He had a long chin and big, rather prominent teeth, just covered, when he was not talking, but his full, floridly curved lips. Old? Young? 30, 50, 55? It was hard to say, and anyhow the question didn't arise in this year of stability, AF 632. It didn't occur to you to ask it. "I shall begin at the beginning," said the DHC, and the more zealous students recorded his intention in their notebooks. "Begin at the beginning. These," he waved his hands, "are the incubators," and opening an insulator door, he showed them racks upon racks of numbered test tubes. "The week's supply of ova, kept," he explained, "at blood heat, whereas my male gametes, GAMETES, and here he opened another door, they have to be kept at 35 instead of 37. Full blood heat sterilizes. Rams wrapped in thermogene beget no lambs. All right. Rams wrapped in thermogenes beget no lambs. Let's see. You may roll a cigarette. Still leaning against the incubators, he gave them, while the pencils scurried illegibly across the pages, a brief description of the modern fertilizing process. Spoke first, of course, of its surgical introduction, the operation undergone voluntarily for the good of society, not to mention the fact that it carries a bonus amounting to 6 months' salary. Right? Society is spelled with a capital S here. Continued with some account of the technique for preserving the excised ovary alive and actively developing. Passed on to a consideration of optimum temperature, salinity, viscosity, referred to the liquor in which the detached and ripened eggs were kept, and leading his charges to the work tables, actually showed them how this liquor was drawn off from the test tubes, how it was let out drop by drop onto the specially warmed slides of the microscopes, how the eggs which it contained were inspected for abnormalities, counted and transferred to a porous receptacle, how, and he now took them to watch the operation, this receptacle was immersed in a warm bouillon containing free-swimming spermatozoa at a minimum concentration of 100,000 per cubic centimeter. He insisted, and how, after 10 minutes, the container was lifted out of the liquor and its content re-examined, how, if any of the eggs remained unfertilized, it was again immersed, and, if necessary, yet again. How the fertilized ova went back to the incubators, where the alphas and betas remained until definitely bottled, while the gammas, deltas and epsilons were brought out again, after only 36 hours to undergo Bokanovsky's process. Bokanovsky's process, repeated the director, and the students underlined the words in their little notebooks. 1 egg, 1 embryo, 1 adult normality. But a Bokanovskified egg will bud, will proliferate, will divide from 8 to 96 buds, and every bud will grow into a perfectly formed embryo, and every embryo into a full-sized adult, making 96 human beings grow where only one grew before. That sounds like cloning. Yeah, cloning. I think this was a topic a while ago, and I don't mean couple of years. I think the discussion arose also at the announcement on mainstream media about this sheep called Dolly. And so they thought, well, if they can do that with a sheep, You know, they can do it with a human being too, you know. And all of the implications, like are these people a different class of people, right? And one could argue they are not technically born, you know. They are created, manufactured, right? Do these people have human rights, so to speak? Or are they property, like slave class? And where is this going? A very difficult topic. Essentially, the DHC concluded, Bokanovskification consists of a series of arrests of development. We check the normal growth and, paradoxically enough, the eggs respond by budding. Responds by budding. The pencils were busy. He pointed. On a very slow-moving band of rack full of test tubes was entering a large metal box. Another rack full was emerging. Machinery faintly purred. It took 8 minutes before the tubes. It took 8 minutes for the tubes to go through, he told them. 8 minutes of hard X-rays, being about as much as an egg can stand. A few died. Of the rest, the least susceptible divided into 2. Most put out 4 buds, some 8. All were returned to the incubators, where the buds began to develop. Then, after 2 days, were suddenly chilled and checked. 2, 4, 8. The buds in their turn budded, and having budded were closed almost to death with alcohol, consequently burgeoned again, and having budded bud out of budware, Jesus Christ. Thereafter further arrest, being generally fatal, left to develop in peace. Well, I can't even read this properly. By which time the original egg was in a fair way to becoming anything from 80 to 96 embryos. A prodigious improvement, you will agree, on nature. Identical, an improvement on nature, right? That's like so arrogant. Like these people at Monsanto. Yeah, we're improving the plant, so because nature didn't do a good job. You know, we've been cultivating these plants for thousands of years, and we've done it in a normal way. And not quite sure if this is correct, but it's probable that we started gathering the most raw but edible plants, and at a certain point, according to some, it's like 10,000 years ago or so, we started doing this in a sort of structured way, and started to refine the plants that we were working with. And if we didn't like some quality that a certain plant possessed, we would not choose to draw seeds from them, right? And that is a way that you can manipulate your plants. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that's working within what nature gives you, right? But then to say like, oh, well, now we've discovered DNA and we now know better than nature, that's so arrogant. It's unbelievable. This DNA has existed ever, and even before life, apparently, if you want to believe the official story, manifested itself here on Earth. They call it prebionic, I think, prebiotic, yeah, prebiotic DNA. It's the DNA, but it doesn't have a cell structure around it. But it's there already, just waiting for the cell structure so it can manifest its magic, I would say. This DNA, what it can do. Right, so, and I don't think that's a coincidence that these acids, amino acids and stuff formed. I don't think that happened by accident. I think these are building blocks that were created on purpose. I'm more and more becoming a theological guy, which means I think that there is a purpose to all of this. I also heard this say by, let's see, whoa, that's not so good, that's my tea. Whoa, no, also that goes wrong. We lost where we were. Blah, blah, blah. Hold on, guys. I need to clean this mess up. Yeah. Music. Let's see. Where is he? If I still have him. No, I think I clicked him away. Yeah. Unfortunately, I clicked him away. Maybe I can get him back from history quick. But closed tabs. No. It's too far gone. But he was talking, he was explaining about music and as it is presented in the 7 liberal arts, right? And he also spoke of a teleological, how do you call it? Property within music. As he started playing these tones, they said this sequence, it leads to something. It has a purpose, he says. And if you listen to it as he explains it, while he's playing the piano and you listen to the piano, you hear exactly what he means. And there seems to be a purpose to just the harmony. I don't know how to explain it correctly. He does it much better than I do. Telos, that's it. If you want to look it up, Telos. It is of course in stark contrast with a materialist point of view, that the universe came into existence for no reason at all. It's just a coincidence, right? And of course, the whole idea of saying the universe came into existence is it sounds like it's self-contradictory. This is from Leonard Peikoff. And this is a much better, I think he gave a much better explanation than this creature in a wheelchair. And he says, well, if you use as a definition for the word universe everything that exists, right? If you just take a good look at that definition of the universe, it means everything that exists. And if you then ask the question, well, where did that come from? It doesn't make sense, because it's everything that exists. And there's no something coming from nothing. That's also, it just so contra to what you would think is real, right? Something coming from nothing, that just doesn't make sense. So, the question is invalid, so to speak. And there are, I may have said this before, probably many times, but the Greeks also thought, some of the Greeks also thought that the universe was, what was it? Eternal. That it didn't have a beginning point, and it doesn't have an end point. And in a sense, that's also what the Vedas say. They include a period of destruction, but it comes back. It doesn't stop reappearing. It's an endless cycle. All right, so let me see if I can get back where we were, because it all went wrong. Let's see. Scroll. I think here somewhere, yeah. By which time, I think we were here, 60, yeah. Identical twins, but not in piddling 2s and 3s as in the old viviparous days, when an egg would sometimes accidentally divide, actually by dozens, by scores at a time. Scores, the director repeated, and flung out his arm, as though he were distributing largesse. Scores. But one of the students was fool enough to ask where the advantage lay. My good boy, the director wheeled sharply round on him. Can't you see? Can't you see? He raised a hand. His expression was solemn. Bakonovsky's process is one of the major instruments of social stability. Right? So that's the first paragraph we read. You also saw that word stability. And Bakonovsky's process here is a caste system, as it has been used for thousands of years. This caste system, and this is how, according to Kevin Cole, how do you put that? Of whom I say you should check him out. Kevin Cole with a C, Kevin with a K, at Tragedy and Hope. He explains how the trivium and the 7 liberal arts even, so both of them, the trivium and the quadrivium, in a classical way, were used to create these divisions in societies, which are known to us as castes, or class, if you wish. A certain class of people, you know? That's why in Dutch, when you go to school, you go to class. Yeah. Go to your class, they say. Right? Blah, blah. So that's what that's about. Major instruments of social stability. Standard men and women in uniform batches. The whole of a small factory staffed with the products of a single Bokanovskified egg. 96 identical twins working 96 identical machines. Very good. Otto posted a triangle in the chat room, which represents a caste system. Brahmanas are on top. They are the priest class. Today you would say the intellectual class, the scientific class. They teach the Kshatriyas what they need to know. Kings and stuff. Kings are warriors in those days. Where this comes from. This is like 7,000 years old, approximately. And the legend is that this knowledge was not written down before that because people had memory. But at a certain point this was written down, and that's why we now have these in letters, symbols. Not like in memory. Next class is the Vaishyas, the skilled traders, merchants, and minor officials, it says here. And then Sudras, unskilled workers, and last class, Praya, Haryans, outcasts, untouchables. Why does it say children of God beneath there for the lowest class? That's odd. So yeah, that's how it is. And that's that's the third. The second triangle he pastes is exactly about Brave New World, where you have Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon. Very good. Yeah, what was I gonna say about that Brahmana stuff? I was gonna mention something else. No, it slipped my mind. Oh yeah, now I remember. Alright, so they say that these classes, that's what I was talking about in the beginning with conditioning, right? They say that these classes are a result of, and I'm only talking about top 4 now, the 3 modes of nature, as they call it. This again is about human nature, right? And they call these 3 modes of nature ignorance, passion, and goodness. And if you are, they say, right, this is I totally disagree with what their philosophy is. And I doubt all of the people in India subscribe to this, but I think a lot of them do. is that if you are only under the influence of the mode of goodness, then you are a Brahmana. If you are under the influence of goodness but also passion, then you are a Kshatriya. And so, see, with these mixtures, that's what created this caste system, according to their belief system, according to their myths also. I can tell you mythological stories about this. Yeah, so. And this is also, now that I've been more enlightened again by Kevin Cole, as far as I understand it now, this is what is known in Western culture as the great chain of being. There you also see this hierarchical structure. So, to combat all of that, you need to listen to Larkin Rose. Check it out. Larkin Rose. You find lots of stuff. Let's see, where were we? 96 identical twins working 96 identical machines. The voice was almost tremulous with enthusiasm. You really know where you are, for the first time in history. He quoted the planetary motto: community, identity, stability. Grand words. If we could Bokanovskify indefinitely, the whole problem would be solved. Yeah, this is eugenics. Solved by standard gammas, unvarying deltas, uniform epsilons, millions of identical twins. The principle of mass production at last applied to biology. Right? If you've ever checked in at exactly 4 o'clock at Dutch time, that is, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays at UCY.tv, you can hear this guy speak and listen carefully to what he says. Mass produced is the word that he uses. Classes of people. But alas, the director shook his head. We can't Bokanovskify indefinitely. 96 seemed to be the limit. 72 a good average. For the same ovary and with gametes, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Gametes. Gametes? No clue. Of the same male to manufacture as many batches of identical twins as possible. That was the best. Sadly, a second best that they could do. And even that was difficult. For in nature it takes 36 years for 200 eggs to reach maturity. But our business is to stabilize the population at this moment. Here and now. Dribbling out twins of a quarter of a century. What would be the use of that? But our business is to stabilize the population at this moment. What are they talking about? They're talking about cattle. That's what they're talking about. Obviously, no use at all. But Potsnap's technique had immensely accelerated the process of ripening. They could make sure of at least 150 mature eggs within 2 years. Fertilize and Bokanovskify In other words, multiply by 72 and you get an average of nearly 11,000 brothers and sisters in 150 batches of identical twins, all within 2 years of the same age. And in exceptional cases, we can make one ovary yield us over 15,000 adult individuals. Beckoning to a fair-haired, ruddy young man who happened to be passing at the moment, "Mr. Foster," he called. The ruddy young man approached. "Can you tell us the record for a single ovary, Mr. Foster?" 16,012 in this center, Mr. Foster replied without hesitation. He spoke very quickly. Had a, vivacious? Vivacious? I don't know. He spoke very quickly, had a vivacious blue eye, and took an evident pleasure in quoting figures. 16,012 in 189 batches of identicals. But of course, they've done much better, he rattled on. In some of the tropical centers, Singapore has often produced over 16,500, and Mombasa has actually touched the 17,000 mark. But then they have unfair advantages. You should see the way a Negro ovary responds to pituitary. It's quite astonishing when you're used to working with European material. Still, he added with a laugh, but the light of combat was in his eyes, and the lift of his chin was challenging. Still, we mean to beat them if we can. I'm working on a wonderful Delta Minus ovary at this moment. Only just 18 months old. Over 12,700 children already, either decanted or in embryo, and still going strong. We'll beat them yet. That's the spirit I like, cried the director, and clapped Mr. Foster on the shoulder. Come along with us and give these boys the benefit of your expert knowledge. Mr. Foster smiled modestly. With pleasure. They went. Yeah. Yeah, that's the word, Otto, but I've no clue how you would pronounce that. Yeah. Hold on, guys. I need some new tea. This is what you get listening to live radio on the Solvinur event. This guy, you know, he's crazy. He just steps away from the mic and starts making tea. So, yeah. I'm not gonna play some Poker Face because I've since, you know, I'm checking out the RLM chat now and then, and I heard myself, and it went to music, but the sound after it starts drowning away or something. Vivacious. Okay, thanks, Otto. It means full of life, excited. Yeah, viva. That's what I was thinking of. The word viva is also used in Dutch, I think. Yeah. Vive, I think it's a French root. It means life. Vive la République. Long live the Republic, something like that. Yeah, but hold one sec, guys, hold on. Alright, the water is on the fire. I got a dry throat and I need something to drink. So. Let's see, where were we? In the bottling room, all was harmonious bustle and ordered activity. Flaps of fresh sauce, peritonium, ready cut to the proper size, came shooting up a little left from the organ store in the sub-basement. Whiz and then click. Hey, Joanna. The lift hatches hew open. The bottle... Hold on, let me adjust this a little bit here. So, you can see this a bit better. There we go. Another flap of peritonium had shot up from the depths, ready to be slipped into yet another bottle. The next of that slow, interminable procession on the band. Yeah. Next to the liner stood the matriculators. The procession advanced. One by one the eggs were transferred from their test tubes to the larger containers. Deftly, the peritoneal lining was slit. The morula dropped into place, the saline solution poured in, and already the bottle had passed, and it was the turn of the labelers. Hereditary, date of fertilization, membership of Bokanovsky's group details were transferred from the test tube to bottle. No longer anonymous, but named, identified. The procession marched slowly on through an opening in the wall, slowly on into the social predestination room. Social predestination room. Hold on, guys. Let's see, we take appelkaneel. I don't know what it is in English. Kaneel. Apple something. Yep. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. So. Phew. All right. My cup of tea. There we go. The procession advanced. One by one the eggs were transferred from their test tubes to the larger containers. Deftly the peritoneal lining was slit. I just did that. 88 cubic meters of card index, said Mr. Foster with relish as they entered. Containing all the relevant information, added the director. Brought up to date every morning. And coordinated every morning. No, every afternoon. On the basis of which they make their calculations. So many individuals of such and such quality, said Mr. Foster. Distributed in such and such quantities. The optimum decanting rate at any given moment. Unforeseen wastages promptly made good. Promptly, repeated Mr. Foster. If you knew the amount of overtime I had to put in After the last Japanese earthquake, he laughed good-humoredly and shook his head. The predestinators sent in their figures for the fertilizers. Who gave them the embryos they asked for? And the bottles come in here to be predestined in detail. Yeah. Predestination. After which they are sent down to the embryo store, where we now proceed ourselves. And, opening a door, Mr. Foster led the way down a staircase into the basement. The temperature was still tropical. They descended into a thickening twilight. 2 doors in a passage with a double turn ensured the cellar against any possible infiltration of the day. Embryos are like photographic films, said Mr. Foster waggishly, as he pushed open the second door. They can only stand red light. And, in effect, the sultry darkness into which the students now followed him was visible and crimson, like the darkness of closed eyes on a summer's afternoon. The bulging flanks of row on receding row and tier above tier of bottles glinted with innumerable rubies, and among the rubies moved the dim red spectres of men and women with purple eyes and all the symptoms of lupus. Lupus? That's a wolf. The hum and rattle of machinery faintly stirred the air. "Give them a few figures, Mr. Foster," said the director, who was tired of talking. Mr. Foster was only too happy to give them a few figures. 220 meters long, 200 wide, 10 high. He pointed upwards, like chickens drinking. The students lifted their eyes towards the distant ceiling. 3 tiers of racks. Ground floor level, first gallery, second gallery. The spidery steel work of gallery above gallery faded away in all directions into the dark. Near them 3 red ghosts were busily unloading demijohns for a moving staircase, the escalator from the social predestination room. Each bottle could be placed on one of 15 racks. Each rack, though you couldn't see it, was a conveyor traveling at the rate of 33 and a third centimeter an hour. 267 days at 8 meters a day, 2,136 meters in all. One circuit of the cellar at ground level, one on the first gallery, half on the second, and one on 267th morning daylight and decanting room. Jesus Christ. Daylight in the decanting room. Independent existence, so-called. But in the interval, Mr. Foster concluded, we've managed to do a lot to them. Oh, a very great deal. His laugh was knowing and triumphant. That's the spirit I like, said the director once more. Let's walk around. You tell them everything, Mr. Foster. Maybe I should comment on this. It says here, but in the interval, in the meantime, we've managed to do a lot to them. This is supposed to give you the idea that some process has been taking place, and will assure that the outcome of these eggs is according to the wishes of the Creator. Not the God Creator, but the egg Creator here. Mr. Foster duly told them of the growing embryo on its bed of peritoneum, made them taste the rich blood surrogate on which it fed, yuck, explained why it had to be stimulated with placentin and thyroxine. Dell says, lupus is on the way to AIDS, but it is not a virus. What the fuck is lupus? Lupus, somebody else has also said something. What's this? Lupus is a what? Immune deficiency disease. Seriously. I never heard of it. Huh. And Grump says it has the same symptoms as syphilis. Okay. Right. Let's see. Where were we here? Told them on the corpus luteum extract, showed them the jets through which at every 12th meter from 0 to 2040 it was automatically injected, spoke of those gradually increasing doses of pituitary administered during the final 96 meters of their course, described the artificial maternal circulation installed in every bottle at meter 112, showed them the reservoir of blood surrogate, the centrifugal pump that kept the liquid moving over the placenta and drove it through the synthetic lung and waste product filter. Refer to the embryo's troublesome tendency to anemia, to the massive doses of hog's stomach extract and fetal fowls liver, with which, in consequence, it had to be supplied. Showed them the simple mechanisms by means of which, during the last 2 meters out of every 8, all the embryos were simultaneously shaken into familiarity with movement. Hinted at the gravity of the so-called trauma of decanting, and enumerated the precautions taken to minimize, by a suitable training of the bottled embryo, that dangerous shock. Told them of the test for sex carried out in the neighborhood of meter 200. Explained the system of labeling, a T for the males, a circle for the females, and for those who were destined to become Free Martins, a question mark, black on a white ground. For of course, said Mr. Foster, in the vast majority of cases, fertility is merely a nuisance. One fertile ovary in 1200. That would really be quite sufficient for our purposes. But we want to have a good choice. And of course, one must always have an enormous margin of safety. Yeah, we want to have a good choice. Eugenics again. So we will allow as many as 30% of the female embryos to develop normally. The others get a dose of male sex hormone every 24 meters for the rest of the course. Result? Yeah. It's a bit late for that now, but maybe for the next, right? Were you aware of this, Otto? Because I was, but I just forgot. But now that we're reading this, I'm thinking, this is introduced as a sort of science fiction, right? But I'm thinking, why don't we read Brave New World Revisited? Which is a non-fiction book, right? So we should probably do that after this one, right? What do you think, Otto? Because you were the one that asked for this, right? If I remember correct. Hold on, guys. Result? They're decanted. No, me neither. I've never read it either, Otto. So that would be a book that I've actually not read before that I would read on air. Then a couple of them that I already read before I started making radio. Yeah, I think it's a good book. It's been, how do you put that? Recommended. Well, yeah, that's indeed, Joanna. You call this science fiction? It reads pretty as if it's happening already, right? Yeah. Let's see. Result, they're decanted as free martins. Structurally quite normal, except, he had to admit, that they do have the slightest tendency to grow beards, but sterile, guaranteed sterile, which brings us, at last, continued Mr. Foster, out of the realm of mere slavish imitation of nature into the much more interesting world of human invention. You see here, he's introducing the idea of sterilizing people. They really see us as animals, like an animal farm, right? Yeah. Word human resource comes to mind. It's unbelievable. If you get this kind of meme, like a human resource, if you get that accepted by the public, it's like accepting you're a slave, right? And this is how cultures, societies have been influenced by changing definitions of words. And when the people adapt these words, they also, by massively adapting this, they created reality, so to speak. And I don't call this philosophical reality. It's more of a hallucination. Continuing, he rubbed his hands, for of course they didn't content themselves with merely hatching out embryos. Any cow could do that. We also predestine and condition. We decant our babies as socialized human beings, as alphas or epsilons, as future sewage workers or future, he was going to say, future world controllers, but correcting himself said, future directors of hatcheries instead. The DHC acknowledged the compliment with a smile. Future world controllers. They were passing meter 320 on Rec 11. A young beta minus mechanic was busy with screwdriver and spanner on the blood surrogate pump of a passing bottle. The hum of the electric motor deepened by fractions of a tone as he turned the nuts. Down, down. A final twist, a glance at the revolution counter, and he was done. He moved 2 paces down the line and began the same process on the next pump. Reducing the number of revolutions per minute, Mr. Foster explained. The surrogate goes round slower, therefore passes through the lung at longer intervals, therefore gives the embryo less oxygen. Nothing like oxygen shortage for keeping an embryo below par. Again he rubbed his hands. But why do you want to keep the embryo below par? Asked an ingenious student. As, said the director, breaking a long silence, hasn't it occurred to you that an epsilon embryo must have an epsilon environment as well as an epsilon heredity? Right, so the correct answer to this question that the students asked is, in this scenario, stability. That's the reason. It evidently hadn't occurred to him. He was covered with confusion. The lower caste, said Mr. Foster, the lower the caste, the shorter the oxygen. The first organ affected was the brain, after that the skeleton. After 70% of normal oxygen you get dwarfs. At less than 70 eyeless monsters. Who are no use at all, concluded Mr. Foster. I think that would be what I just read is analogous indeed. There's no science fiction here. It's analogous as in the way we are viewed. Whereas, his voice became confidential and eager, if they could discover a technique for shortening the period of maturation, what a triumph, what a benefaction to society. Consider the horse. They considered it. Mature at 6, the elephant at 10, while at 13 a man is not yet sexually mature and is only full grown at 20. Hence, of course, that fruit of delayed development, the human intelligence. But in epsilon, said Mr. Foster very justly, we don't need human intelligence. Didn't need and didn't get it. But though the epsilon's mind was mature at 10, the epsilon's body was not fit to work till 18. Long years of superfluous and wasted immaturity. If the physical development could be speeded up till it was as quick, say, as a cow's, what an enormous saving to the community. Enormous, murmured the students. Mr. Foster's enthusiasm was infectious. He became rather technical, spoke of the abnormal endocrine coordination, which made men grow so quickly, so slowly, postulated a germinal mutation to account for it. Could the effects of this germinal mutation be undone? Could the individual epsilon embryo be made a revert, by a suitable technique, to the normality of dogs and cows? That was the problem, and it was all but solved. Pilkington at Mombosa had produced individuals who were sexually mature at 4 and full-grown at 6.5, a scientific triumph. But socially useless. 6-year-old men and women were too stupid to do even epsilon work, and the process was an all-or-nothing one. Either you failed to modify at all, or else you modified the whole way. They were still trying to find the ideal compromise between adults of 20 and adults of 6, so far without success. Mr. Foster sighed and shook his head. Blah, blah. Let's see, guys. Anything going on in the chat? Anything you want me to say on air, guys, in the chat? Yeah, I'm drinking tea, regular dork. Yeah. A regular dork says we treat animals better than we treat each other. And I heard that also was one of the, it was claimed to be one of the signs of the fall of Rome, was that people had more attention for animals than they had for people. And you see that sometimes too nowadays. Too much attention for animals. It's an animal, right? In my opinion, treat it as such. Don't what do you call that? Anthropomorph, something like that. Make it human-like, right? Treat it like a human. Yeah, that's us, Flash. That's different, though. I'm talking about culture creators and queens and kings and how they view us. CEOs of large companies, human resource. That's the way we are viewed, right? And you got coffee? Okay, well that's good. It's still early enough for coffee, right? Blah, blah. Yeah. Is that with an explanation mark also? I think so, right? I'm getting lessons in promoting here. Yeah, I haven't done too well. I was a bit late. I was too busy also. Show now and show next. It's IRC commands. Helps promote stuff, yeah. And Otto spells it out for me. Anthropomorphize. Something like that. Yeah. Let's see, where were we, guys? Their wanderings through the crimson twilight had brought them to the neighborhood of meter 170 on rack 9. From this point onwards, rack 9 was enclosed, and the bottle performed the remainder of their journey in a kind of tunnel, interrupted here and there by openings 2 or 3 meters wide. Heat conditioning, said Mr. Foster. Hot tunnels alternated with cool tunnels. Coolness was wedded to discomfort in the form of hard X-rays. By the time they were decanted, the embryos had a horror of cold. They were predestined to emigrate to the tropics, to be miner and acetate silk spinners and steel workers. Later on, their minds would be made to endorse the judgment of their bodies. We condition them to thrive on heat, concluded Mr. Foster. Our colleagues upstairs will teach them to love it. And that, put in the director sententiously, that is the secret of happiness and virtue, liking what you've got to do. All conditioning aims at that, making people like their unescapable social destiny. Well, no science fiction here, right? All conditioning aims at that, making people like their unescapable social destiny. In a gap between 2 tunnels, a nurse was delicately probing with a long, fine syringe into the gelatinous content of a passing bottle. The students and their guides stood watching her for a few moments in silence. "Well, Lenina," said Mr. Foster, when at last she withdrew the syringe and straightened herself up. The girl turned with a start. One could see that, for all the lupus and the purple eyes, she was uncommonly pretty. "Henry!" Her smile flashed redly at him, a row of coral teeth. "Charming, charming," murmured the director, giving her 2 or 3 little pats, received in exchange a rather deferential smile for himself. "What are you giving them?" asked Mr. Foster, making his tone very professional. "Oh, the usual typhoid and sleeping sickness." Does this sound like vaccinations to you guys or what? Unbelievable. Tropical workers start being inoculated at meter 150, Mr. Foster explained to the students. The embryos still have gills. We immunize the fish against the future man's diseases. Then, turning back to Lenina, 10 to 5 on the roof this afternoon, he said, as usual. Charming, said the director once more. And, with a final pat, moved away after the others. On rack 10, rows of next generation's chemical workers were being trained in the toleration of lead, caustic soda, tar, chlorine. The first of a batch of 250 embryonic rocket plane engineers were just passing the 1100-meter mark on rack 3. A special mechanism kept their containers in constant rotation to improve their sense of balance, Mr. Foster explained. Doing repairs on the outside of a rocket in mid-air is a ticklish job. We slacken off the circulation when they're right way up, so that they're half-starved, and double the flow of surrogate when they're upside down. They learn to associate topsy-turvydom with well-being. In fact, they're only truly happy when they're standing on their heads. And now, Mr. Foster went on, I'd like to show you some very interesting conditioning for Alpha Plus intellectuals. We have a big batch of them on rack 5, first gallery level. He called to 2 boys who had started to go down to the ground floor. They're round about meter 900, he explained. You can't really do any useful intellectual conditioning till the fetuses have lost their tails. Follow me. But the director had looked at his watch. 10 to 3, he said. No time for the intellectual embryos, I'm afraid. We must go up to the nurseries before the children have finished their afternoon sleep. Mr. Foster was disappointed. At least one glance at the decanting room, he pleaded. Very well, then, the director smiled indulgently. Just one glance. Starts chapter 2, but it's already 57. So in about 2 minutes my outro will start. Listen to what Huxley says there. And yeah, I excerpted it out, but I don't think it's taken out of context. The only context I maybe should add is that he claims that he's afraid that this is what might happen. Yeah. I don't think he's afraid at all, you know. But if it's a speech at Berkeley in 1962 where he says this. If you want to you should hear the whole speech, by the way. Check it out. 1962. It's available on YouTube. Aldous Huxley, which is the year he died, they say in the Wikipedia. I think it was 62 at Berkeley. All right. Captain, Del, Duck, Hopper, Juana, Meticlus, Otto, and Fivenons. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll be back next week. Take care, y'all.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
to create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific